The NFL Combine must change. In my opinion, the tests that they do, the athletic tests, need to be reevaluated. Here's the problem. They do the same 7 tests for every single player, irregardless of the position that they play. The 7 tests that they do are the 40-yard dash, the 225-pound bench press, the vertical jump, the broad jump, the 3-cone drill, the 20-yard shuttle, and the 60-yard shuttle. Now, some of these tests do provide validity for certain positions, but not for all of them. So what do we mean by validity? So athletic tests have 3 criteria: accuracy, reliability, and validity. Now, accuracy is when a test will give you a correct or accurate result. So for example, if you had a bathroom scale that is calibrated correctly, then it will correctly or accurately show what your body weight is. Reliability is when you're able to produce results from a test over and over and over again, the same results. So for example, if you had a dartboard and you're throwing a dart at it, if you hit the dart in the same spot each time, that's reliability. Validity is when a test shows you the results that it's supposed to be measuring. So for example, if you wanted to measure your lean body mass, you're not going to do that with a body weight scale or a bathroom scale, because that's not going to show you just your lean body mass. It's also going to show you what your fat mass is. It's going to group the two together, showing your total body weight. So a much more valid test for lean body mass would be something like the caliber test or the bod pod test, because it'll then just show the lean body mass results. It's what you're measuring for. So validity is where I want to concentrate primarily on. It's where the main problem is when it comes to the NFL Combine. And I'm going to break it down into each of the 7 tests. So let's start with the 40-yard dash. Now the 40-yard dash measures the time it takes for a player to run 40 yards. At the Combine, they also measure the time at the 10-yard line and the 20-yard line as well. Now this test does provide validity for some positions, but not all of them. So the ones that does provide validity are wide receivers, running backs, cornerbacks, linebackers, tight ends, and safeties. That's because all these positions heavily rely on running. But it does not provide validity for offensive linemen, defensive linemen, kickers, or punters. That's because their positions don't rely on running. It's not their job to run. Their job is to push. Or kickers and punters, it's to kick. It's not to run. So validity for those positions isn't really there. And it's not going to really tell scouts all that much. Now moving on to the 225-pound bench press. Now the NFL likes to do this test because they claim it can help show a player's strength and endurance. And they also claim that it shows whether a player has been hitting the weight room or not. The problem is that football is not an endurance sport. It's a series of short bursts with rest intervals in between each. Right? It's rather rare that a play goes past 10 seconds. Football is not aerobic. It's anaerobic and alactic. So your body has 3 energy systems: the phosphagen or ATP-PC, the glycolytic, and the oxidative systems. Football primarily uses the phosphagen or ATP-PC. This system provides energy for the first roughly 10 seconds of activity. Remember, football is a series of short bursts where each play lasts within that 10 seconds. It's rare for it to go past that unless you have a wide receiver or punt returner who's running the entire length of a football field. But again, that's quite rare. So doing the 225-pound bench press for as many reps as possible isn't really all that valid. It won't really show validity. It's because pretty much no player or in any position is going to go past that 10 seconds of play. Again, unless you're a wide receiver or punt returner who's running an entire length of the field. But again, that's extremely rare. A much more valid test would be a 3-rep max or 5-rep max on the bench press. This will show strength for that athlete, but at the same time will be much more in line with the energetic demands of the sport. Now, the vertical jump test is the next one I want to go over. It helps to test for explosiveness and lower body strength, and it certainly does that. However, this test doesn't provide validity for every position, primarily the offensive lineman and the defensive lineman. Yes, these players do rely on explosiveness and lower body strength, but they pretty much never jump. So the vertical jump test isn't going to be really valid for them. There's also the fact that a 300-pound guy jumping isn't really all that friendly on their joints. So a much better test would be like the bench press one, doing a 3-rep max or a 5-rep max squat test. This will certainly help to show explosiveness and lower body strength for that particular player. And you can also actually hook up the barbell to a Tendo unit, which will actually give you an actual reading of their power, output, and velocity of the bar when they squat. So you have an actual measurement of it as well. So the broad jump is the next test that I want to go over. So now, out of all the 7 tests here, this is probably the only one that provides validity for all positions. So a player must jump as far forward as they can, and this can really help showcase their explosiveness and lower body strength, even in linemen. So if a 300-pound lineman can jump forward, even pretty far, it can really help showcase their strength and explosiveness. And it's a test that's perfectly safe and perfectly effective. So out of all the ones, this is the one that I would say provides validity across the board and should be kept, irregardless of the position that the player is in. Now, the 3-cone drill is another one that provides validity for most positions, but not all of them. So a player must run through an L-shaped cone drill to showcase their agility and do it for time. Now again, linemen aren't really going to have much validity for this because their position doesn't really have running in it unless they are able to get past an offensive lineman. Like if a defensive lineman is able to get past an offensive lineman and run towards a kind of quarterback, then that has some running, but again, that's not super often. The same can be said about punters or kickers. Again, their position doesn't involve running. So this drill, again, provides validity for the positions that primarily rely on running, but the ones that don't, there's not much validity there. Now on to the 20-yard shuttle. Now this test is a great measure of agility. So if you are a quarterback, a cornerback, a linebacker, wide receiver, running back, tight end, or safety, the players that heavily rely on agility and running, it's a great test to do. However, once again, if you're a lineman or a kicker or punter, not so much. So this test provides validity for some positions, once again, but not all of them. So you can kind of see that a pattern is actually starting to evolve here, that the combine is really centered around the more popular positions, or the ones that primarily rely on running and not so much the other ones. So again, this is in part why, starting to see here why it needs to change. And finally, we have the 60-yard shuttle, which has the same problems as the 20-yard shuttle or the other ones, where the positions that rely on running will provide validity for this. But again, like I've said over and over and over again, the linemen, kickers, and punters aren't going to have much validity here. Now, quarterbacks, that's a position that I haven't really been talking much about, and it's kind of a unique position. So a quarterback, they're primarily known for staying within that one general area, within the pocket, and then throwing the ball. Now, there are a few times where they have to showcase agility or running because they have to avoid being tackled, or they decide to run the ball themselves. But this isn't super often. So in terms of the tests, the only 2 that are really valid for them are probably the broad jump and the 20-yard shuttle. The 225-pound bench press, again, like I've said, a better one would be 3 rep max or 5 rep max. Maybe that can provide some validity. You do want to know whether quarterback is strong or not, but it's not absolutely vital because, again, the position of the quarterback isn't to push or to avoid being tackled, because a lot of times if they try to stiff arm stuff like that, it's not going to happen. So the only two I would really say are valid are the broad jump and the 20-yard shuttle. And the test, the combine, should be centered in terms of the test for the quarterback a little bit more in terms of what the demands of their position are. Now, in short, the tests need to be reevaluated. Now, the NFL can actually do this pretty easily. There are a ton of super smart strength and conditioning coaches right there in the NFL. Every team has at least 2, such as Buddy Morris of the Arizona Cardinals, or Joe Ken of the Panthers, or Mark Uyama of the Vikings, or Anthony Paroli of the Buccaneers. They're all there, and the NFL could easily consult with them saying, okay, which tests do we need to do? And I'm hoping that this is what will eventually happen. Because a lot of these strength coaches are going to the combine, like they're there right now, to help conduct some of these tests and to have some meetings. So I'm hoping that moving forward here, that things will start to change so that they will start to do tests that make much more sense and provide much more validity for each individual position. So my name is Joe, this is Lifting with Style. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure you subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.